Hi folks, how you doing? This is Iqbal with NVIDIA weekly analysis and assessment. Last week has been so challenging for NVIDIA. We can hope that next week NVIDIA should recover. In this video, I will further discuss NVIDIA stock price movement for next week using technical chart, fundamentals, and other data analysis. Now, let's get started. Starting with the daily summary, Nvidia opened at 137.45. It made a high 139.92. It made a low 134.22 and it closed at 135.91. And that is 3% down. In last 5 days, you see that Nvidia is still down about 2.86%. And overall, last 1 year, Nvidia is still up about 147.9%. So in the short term, there was some correction due on Nvidia. So Nvidia had been under pressure since past few weeks. But as we move closer to the earnings date, I expect Nvidia to get a bounce back. Now, let's take a look weekly candlestick chart for Nvidia. You see candlestick chart for Nvidia on a weekly snapshot for last 1 year. As you can notice from this candlestick chart, there was lack of clarity on Nvidia price movement from last few weeks. So some weeks were red and some weeks were green. And the last week closed as a big red candlestick, but before that we had 3 consecutive green weeks for Nvidia. So, in my opinion, next week we should hope for green candlestick for Nvidia. In other words, we should expect Nvidia to close positive by the end of next week. And if you take a look historical data, after every few months we see this kind of behavior. For example, you see 10 or 11 consecutive green candlestick and then you saw some correction, some drop, and then again green candlestick. So here you see again Nvidia went up, did some correction, and then went up again. And in this cycle, you see Nvidia went up, and then it got some drop, and then again it started going up. So if this behavior continues, then probably next few weeks we should be expecting Nvidia to take a uptrend until the earnings. Now, let's take a look forward P for NVIDIA. So, NVIDIA forward P as of Friday was 39.28. If we compare with 1 week prior, that was 41.75. So, some drop happened in the last week, but still you see that it's ranging around 40. So, still some room to go further down, but not much. So, I'm hoping next week NVIDIA should recover based on forward P as well, because the forward P below 40 is not stable for NVIDIA if you take a look at the historical data. So, whenever it dropped below 40, it tried to recover or bounce back. You see that? Most of the time it's between 40 and 50. You can take a look. Okay. Palantir at this point 197.82. So Palantir didn't have a very good week last week. So we saw good amount of correction on Palantir and that was expected. SMCI 10.26, not a major change from last week, but I'm still positive about SMCI that it has lots of potential to go further up in next few months. AMD 26.19 below 30 forward P. So AMD also has some potential to go further up. It's just waiting for some good news before the earnings. Now let's take a look quarterly percentage change analysis for Nvidia. So based on the cumulative percentage change as you see on your screen, Nvidia is down about 6.052% from the previous earnings report. So the minimum point Nvidia went down in this quarter was about 12%. And you see here, right? And also last cycle of the last quarter, the minimum point Nvidia down about 12.8%. So almost there, the minimum point. So if Nvidia goes down further, not much room for Nvidia to go further down, probably a few more points. On the upper side, Nvidia had lots of potential. In the last quarter, it went up about 25%. So if Nvidia goes about 20 or 25% again from here, so that would make Nvidia around 165 or so by the earnings date. And that's not unrealistic. And I'll make price projections for Nvidia that should be valid before the next earnings. Probably I'll make this kind of video probably 1 or 2 weeks from now. Now let's take a look technical charts for Nvidia. You see 90-day hourly interval chart for Nvidia on your screen and also the Fibonacci levels. You see that Nvidia is trading around 135.6 at this point. The next level of support is 133 and after that is 127. So if Nvidia goes down further, around 127 would be a very good buy. And also around 133 as well, in my opinion, could be a good buy. If Nvidia goes up, then next level of resistance is 141.28. If Nvidia breaks that, then after that is 153.74. For next week, I am guessing Nvidia should be able to break 140 level and should be trading around 145 by the end of next week. And that is my assessment. Now let's take a look MACD chart. So you see the MACD chart on your screen, the second table from the top. So MACD, you see the blue line went down below zero line, and that correction was very steep, similar to the upside. So whenever we see very steep upside, we can hope that the correction would also be very steep, similar to this one. You see that went up very steep, then went down very steep. And also here, steep up and down, right? So now from here, you see that Nvidia started recovering a little bit on Friday, but still ranging around 136 at this point. And that tells me that Nvidia should get some bounce back sometime early next week or mid of next week, based on the MACD chart as well. So again, my target price for next week for Nvidia is around 145. Now, let's take a look some news regarding Nvidia and overall market. You see some data and some news regarding Nvidia on your screen. So starting from this one that says US equity indexes fall this week as blowout jobs report poses a risk to policy easing plans. So as I discussed in my previous video that the jobs report on Friday was not supportive to the market, and the concern again it started happening that inflation might come back again, and that would add additional pressure on Fed to do the rate cut even much slower. Now let's take a look this one that says Nvidia Broadcom among Goldman highlights for AI opportunities. Let's open it. So it says that Nvidia, AMD and Broadcom are trading lower, and that we already know. And the Biden administration could restrict Nvidia's AI chip shipment, and that could affect Nvidia a future price movement as well. And that's why you see that Nvidia and other AI stock were under pressure last week. But the good thing is you see that Friday Taiwan Semiconductor, that is TSMC, released the quarterly revenue, and that was impressive. And that even beated the market expectation. So the last year for 2024, the revenue was 2.89 trillion, and that is 34% up year over year, and that is very good. And in terms of the quarter, you see that 868.46 billion in the last quarter, and that is 19.62 billion up from the last year same quarter. And the analyst estimate was 26.2 versus the actual revenue is $26.3 billion. Okay, so that's more than expectation. So this tells that the great time ahead for AI companies in 2025. So we should not be disappointed with the recent correction on Nvidia. So now this one also good one for Nvidia that says Nvidia's lead expands. Analyst says AI demand remains very strong. Let's open it. So this analyst from Bank of America, his name is Vivek Arya, and he's very positive about Nvidia. And so now he has price target for Nvidia as 190. Previously, if I remember correctly, he had the price target of 175. So he increased the price target for Nvidia, and that's very good. And his overall comment is here that says the tone for AI demand remains very strong across both Hooper and new Blackwell platforms. So Hooper run rate is not necessarily tied to demand. So such a long comment. So the bottom line is he's very positive about the future direction and outlook for Nvidia. So most of the time, the Bank of America or Citibank analysis is more reliable versus the other companies based on my past experiences. So another good comment about Nvidia and that says Nvidia will still be a great growth company, just more reasonable going forward, and that is from Albayan Financials Group. So I guess that's all about news and analysis from other sources regarding Nvidia. Let's take a look economic data due for next week that can impact Nvidia and overall market. On Monday next week, nothing much coming up. Tuesday, we have core PPI, and that's very important. And also, Wednesday, we have CPI and core CPI as well. So, both Tuesday and Wednesday are very important for the market because that would tell about inflation. Thursday, we have initial jobless claim, and that's not too important at this point. And Friday, no other inflation or job data. So only Tuesday and Wednesday are important. So I'm guessing on Tuesday and Wednesday market would be little volatile, but if CPI comes higher than the forecast, then that won't be good for the market. Then we can expect market take more dip after the data. I'll further discuss CPI historical data and expectation on my probably Tuesday or Monday video next week. So that's all about my weekly analysis and assessment for NVIDIA for next week. And also, I uploaded my Excel sheets to my Patreon account that I showed you in this video. So if I summarize my video, yes, we know that NVIDIA had been under pressure and we saw some corrections happening after NVIDIA made an all-time high. But in my opinion, that's a short-term behavior from Nvidia and it should bounce back or recover by the end of next week or middle of next week. My target price is 145 for next week. So I hope you like the video. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you more in my next video. Take care.